Your sources hit on so much: the big trade routes, how the guilds work, specific businesses like those 5 miles to Kent inns everyone seems to know.
Yeah.
And yeah, the challenges too. Supply line problems, even interesting pests affecting agriculture.
Definitely some unique challenges there.
You gave us a really rich picture to explore, and we've done our best to boil it down to the most compelling parts of Ambrosian commerce for you. So where should we start unraveling all this? Maybe the basics, the foundation.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's start with the structure that, makes it all possible. Ambrose seems to work on a pretty standardized 3-tier currency: bronze, silver, and gold. And then they have these bigger gold rods for like major transactions. What's really interesting is how consistent this is, even across different kingdoms.
Oh, right. So even if rulers put their own face on the coins.
Exactly. The weight, the size, the metal purity that stays the same. It suggests there's some kind of strong agreement, or maybe, a historical power that pushed for this standardization early on. It stops that chaos you get with tons of regional currencies.
Makes total sense if you want trade to flow easily across borders. Right. And you mentioned organizations keeping this all in line. The Business Guild and something called the Circle of Coin.
Precisely. Those two are the big players upholding what they call the Standards Charter. The Business Guild actually certifies the official currency with this really intricate maker's mark.
Yeah.
Super hard to fake, apparently.
Like an anti-counterfeiting measure built right in.
Basically, yeah. And the Circle of Coin, that's made up of treasury folks from different kingdoms, they meet up regularly to sort out the cross-border money stuff, stabilizing exchange rates, fighting counterfeiting, recognizing new currencies, even handing out charters for banks. They're like the International Finance Committee for Ampros.
So they're setting the financial rules of the game. And banking, Ampros Bank, came up a lot. Sounds like a big deal continent-wide.
Oh, definitely. Ampros Bank has been around a while, has a pretty wide reach, 15 branches across the continent. They do the usual stuff: loans, deposit accounts.
Standard banking fare.
Right. But what's really telling about Ampros is that they also specialize in assessing and storing artifacts.
Artifacts, like magical items.
Seems like it. It gives you a real flavor of the economy, doesn't it? A world where, magical stuff actually has serious monetary value.
Yeah, you're not asking your local bank teller to appraise a +1 sword, usually. Okay, so beyond money, it sounds like there's this broader push for standardization in Ampros trade.
Absolutely. The Business Guild, again, they're not just about currency. They standardize weights, measures, even time. Yeah, a standard foot, pound, gallon, and a standard 24-hour day across the whole continent. The Guild even has inspectors checking scales and measures in shops.
Wow.
It's crucial, right? Especially if you're a bigger business trying to keep things consistent everywhere. Quality, pricing, it sort of lays the groundwork for bigger operations.
Which leads us nicely into these business chains popping up in Ampros. Sounds like that's a newer thing, relatively speaking, tied to some big changes.
Exactly right. There is this thing called the maelstrom. Sounds pretty chaotic, and its prolonged absence brought a level of stability Ampros hadn't seen before.
So less reality-bending chaos makes it easier to plan long-term.
You got it. Entrepreneurs felt safer setting up shop further afield, making connections. Plus, about 500 years back, the rulers in High Emerald actually encouraged merchants to set up outposts along the trade routes. These early chains, mostly inns and stables, they figured out pretty quickly that consistency was key. Build trust, get repeat customers.
It's that comforting feeling, right? Knowing you can find a decent meal and a clean bed, even if you're miles from home.
Yeah.
Like a fantasy version of a motel chain.
Exactly that. And now, chains are a big part of the landscape. Though, interestingly, your sources suggest most top out around 20 locations. Only a few hit 50.
Why is that, do you think?
It probably points to the challenges, right? Logistics, management, keeping that quality consistent over vast distances. Maybe it highlights limitations in communication or transport, or even how far you can stretch magical oversight.
Makes sense. And the prime example seems to be 5 miles to Kent. What's their story?
Right, 5 miles to Kent. They've been around about 300 years. Started by a former freelancer, an adventurer type named Provost Kent. And there's this great legend about him, an amulet, immortality, maybe granting his family longer lives too.
Immortality amulet, seriously. Well, it's a legend. But the family has shown remarkable longevity, which definitely helps with consistent leadership over centuries. We've got about 50 inns now, known for standard prices, reliable rooms, and, get this, blueberry tarts.
Blueberry tarts.
Freshly baked, served at breakfast. It's their signature thing. That, and the blue and white sign. It's become this symbol of reliability for travelers.
I love that. Blueberry tarts as a beacon of comfort. And it's not just inns doing this chain thing.
No, not at all. The texts also mention crystal clear. They run communication outposts using something called mana technology.
Mana technology. Magic and tech combined.
Sounds like it. So you got your traditional service chains like the inns, and then these more tech-driven ones popping up too. Shows how diverse the economy is becoming.
Okay, so you've got businesses expanding, currency flowing. But how does it all move? Let's talk trade routes. Right, the arteries of commerce are crucial. You've basically got land routes, they call them the red roads, sea routes, and interestingly, airship routes too.
Airships, cool. But the land routes are the main network.
Yeah, they form the backbone, apparently laid down by some ancient civilization, then expanded. But traveling them isn't always easy. Conditions vary wildly depending on where you are.
So not exactly Route 66 then. More like treacherous paths.
Pretty much, in places. Your notes mention specific problems, like harsh winters shutting down routes in Norgard up north.
Right.
Needing special permission to cross Danshide lands in Phaedos. Roaming warbands in the Thrall lands sounds nasty. And just finding enough water can be a major issue in the dry lands.
Thanks.
It really shows how geography and politics still shape everything, even in a world with magic.
A logistical nightmare in some spots.
Yeah.
So what kind of businesses actually manage to do well along these tricky land routes?
Well, you see the ones that cater directly to travelers' needs. 5 miles to Kent, obviously, providing safe stops. Shine Stables for looking after mounts and pack animals' vital service. And companies like Dust Divers, who specialize in actually moving cargo overland, despite the dangers, they've adapted.
They found their niche. And where do these routes tend to meet up? Are there major hubs?
Oh, yeah, definitely. A few key cities have become major trade centers. High Emerald is the big one. Land, sea, and airship routes all converge there.
It's a central hub.
Exactly. Then you've got Ironcloud out west, important for sea and air traffic. The Crossroads is a major inland hub where land roads cross. And Festus is the big manufacturing center, especially for that mana technology stuff. They have dedicated routes just for shipping its products out.
Makes sense.
And it seems like the smart chains start in these hubs and then expand outwards along the routes. Logical strategy.
Set up where the action is, then follow the paths.
Good.
Okay, but running a business anywhere has risks. In Ampros, I imagine those risks get creative.
You are spot on. Amprosian businesses face stuff beyond just a bad economy, like agricultural predators.
Actual monsters eating crops and livestock.
Seems like it. Which directly hits businesses like restaurants or food stalls. Then there's always the risk of supply chain disruptions, a big headache if you promise the same product everywhere. And travel itself is risky. Washed out bridges, ambushed caravans.
Ambushed caravans. Sounds like work for those freelancers again.
Could be.
It really does sound like commerce is woven into the very fabric of Ampros. It's not just background noise.
Absolutely not. It's alive, it's dynamic, it's got history, challenges, opportunities. Understanding it is key, whether you're playing a merchant, an adventurer buying gear, or someone looking to invest in, say, an airship fleet.
So for you, our listener, as you process all this, think about it. This dive into Amprosian commerce isn't just about a fictional world. It might make you think about real-world economies too, what drives trade, innovation.
Which leads us to a final thought for you to mull over. With this incredibly rich, complex commercial landscape in Ampros, what kind of new business do you think could really take off there next? And what unique Amprosian problems would it inevitably run into?